Hey guys, how's it going? It's February 28th and it's about, oh, I don't know, 45 degrees, 40 degrees probably. So we got a little warm spell the last couple days, so I figured I'd get over here and let me turn the camera so you can see what I'm doing. First, I want to get the battery swapped back over on the tractors here. And then I'm going to pull the starter off the M here and get it over to the local electric shop so they can go through it. But we did get some good news on the townhouse. I mentioned before that the appraisal went through, but there was a little bit of paperwork hiccup. We got that figured out, so everything is good. Hopefully in the next 30 days then we'll be moving out and moving up. So we'll have all the tractors in the same spot shortly thereafter, and then we'll be able to do a cool walk around to that. I've also got several parts on order for the Minneapolis. I got a new air cleaner tube coming. The carb kit should be here today. I've got a gasket for the bowl, the sediment bowl, I should say. And I got Rudy over at Rebuilt Mags putting together a magneto for me, so grab the camera here. And I'll go over to the H. If I can clamp it right to the clutch pedal. It's probably not a good spot. How about right in here? Oh. Sorry about this. This isn't the easiest task to do. There, now you can stop being dizzy. Alright. So in order to take the starter off, we have to we have to disconnect the cable, obviously, but then it's the two bolts that are kitty corner from each other, and then it just pulls straight out. So somebody was asking, I apologize, I can't remember who it was, but on my last video with the snow plowing, somebody was asking how I plumbed the loader on this tractor. So I'm going to go through that really quick, and then I also wanted to address a question. Sorry, I'm trying to get the camera all straightened out here. I wanted to address a question of governor issues, common governor issues that somebody asked me a number of months ago. But essentially, the H and the M both have lift-all pumps. You've got, on the left side or the clutch side, you've got two ports, two outputs. The front port is for front-mounted implements. The rear port is for rear-mounted implements like 3-point hitches or cultivators, and this has a delayed action. So essentially, if you had a cultivator on this tractor, you'd have the front port hooked up to the front portion of the cultivator, and then there's one port on the other side that would go to the front portion of the cultivator, and this rear port would go towards the rear. So when you would come to the end of a row when you're cultivating, you'd pull the hydraulic lever back, and the front ports would then activate the cylinders for the front half of the cultivator, and that would lift it first when you came to the end of the row. And you'd keep holding that hydraulic control rod, and as you come to the end of the row, the delayed action on this one would actually raise the back section of the cultivator after the front, so that it would be a gradual, you know, as you came to the end of the row, it would kind of do one of these numbers, kind of like an upswing, so that your front was coming to the end of the row, then raising, then the back was coming to the end of the row and raising. So when you're plumbing a loader in, always use the front port. That goes to the cylinder on the left, and then on the other side it's just a single port that goes to the cylinder on the right. So that's how I've got that plumbed. For an auxiliary tank, like this has really large hydraulic cylinders. Whoop, I almost fell. This whole cylinder is a reservoir for when the ram is all the way extended. So essentially, if I just used the belly pump, this loader would only lift about 5 or 6 feet. But now that I've got the reserve tank, which is plumbed directly into the belly pump reservoir fill, with just a piece of hydraulic line off the bottom of the tank, essentially as these cylinders fill up, this tank will then fill the belly pump to give me a lot more capacity with hydraulic fluid. So that's essentially all that does. But if you've got a loader that has smaller cylinders, like a John Deere 45 loader or a Paulson loader, you probably won't need an auxiliary tank. So that is that's how you plumb a loader on these old things. Real simple. So I'm gonna take the cover off the H governor here, just because the M, I've got the new gasket on there with some RTV. So most common thing to wear on these is this spring here. And as you can see, mine's still pretty tight, so my spring is probably still good. And then the second most common thing are the weights. I don't know if you can see them, but in here there's a couple of weights. Right here is one, and there's one on the other side. But the see, mine are actually pretty oblong. There's a pin that attaches the weights to the shaft or the rotating assembly, and over time, because these weights fly in and out with the engine speed, the weights themselves and the pins get worn. So that can cause some issues with erratic governor response and stuff like that. Another thing, there's a bearing on the back side here, a thrust bearing. I don't know if you can see it moving in there, but mine turns just fine. But that's probably the least of your problems is the bearing. Usually it's a weight issue or the spring. So just check those things out. Also, the linkages obviously get worn in these areas, but there is a seal on the back side of this where this arm connects to a shaft which comes through. It's actually this shaft right here, and there's a seal on the back side, and a lot of guys will get oil leaks through that seal, and the only way to replace it is to take the governor assembly off. So not a real difficult task, but that's the only way to do it. But those are your common problems with these things: Farmall H's, M's, 300s, 400s, 450s, this spring, the weights and the pins for the weights, and then the thrust bearing here. So, and I believe there is a bearing at the front as well. Yeah, there's a bearing at the front too. So that's usually really about all that can go wrong with them. I haven't really seen a whole lot of shafts that get a lot of wear. It's usually just the weights and the spring. So I'm going to put this thing back together, and then that's about all I've got for today. So kind of gave you a little quick update on the Minneapolis, and here we sit in the backyard. Gonna drop the starter off and hopefully have everything running, all 6 of them running before we move. So thanks for watching, and thanks for wrenching with me, and sorry about the camera shaking, but stay tuned, guys. We'll talk to you later.